Chapter 1. A World Waiting for Change. Long ago, the world was very different. Women were told they could not do certain things. They were told to stay at home, to cook, to clean, and to care for children. Many people thought that women could not study science or make important discoveries. Science was seen as a man's job. Women had dreams, but society told them no. For centuries, this was the rule. It seemed unbreakable. Schools for girls did not teach math or science. Universities did not accept women. Even if a woman wanted to learn, she often had no teacher, no books, and no chance. But not every woman listened to these rules. Some women asked questions. Why can't I study? They thought. Why can't I learn? These women were brave. They faced a world that did not believe in them. Yet they believed in themselves. They wanted to change things, not only for themselves, but for the world. They dreamed of making discoveries that could help people. They wanted to explore the unknown, to solve mysteries, and to make life better for everyone. It was not easy. In the 19th century, Ada Lovelace was one of these women. She lived in England. She loved numbers and machines, but people told her, that is not for girls. Still, she worked hard. She studied secretly, reading books and solving problems. She became one of the first people to imagine computers, long before computers even existed. Her ideas were far ahead of her time. But Ada's life was not simple. She was often sick. She faced many struggles. Still, she dreamed. Her story would inspire women for generations. In Poland, another woman, Marie Curie, grew up with big dreams. She loved science, but in her country, women were not allowed to study at university. So Marie made a bold decision. She moved to France, where she could study. It was a risky choice. She had little money and no friends in this new country, but she worked hard. She studied by day and tutored by night to survive. Marie's hard work paid off. She became a famous scientist. She discovered two elements, radium and polonium. Her discoveries helped treat cancer and brought new hope to medicine. But her journey was filled with challenges. She faced doubt, jealousy, and even danger from her own experiments. Still, she did not stop. Around the same time, a woman in America faced a different fight. Her name was Katherine Johnson. She was born in 1918 in a world divided by race and gender. She loved numbers from a young age. Her teachers saw her talent and helped her go to school. But there were still many obstacles. Schools for black students were limited, and opportunities were rare. Katherine did not give up. She became a human computer at NASA. Her calculations were essential for space travel. She helped send astronauts to the moon. But her journey was long and filled with moments of doubt. She had to work twice as hard to prove herself. Yet, she always believed in the power of her mind. The world these women lived in was often harsh. People questioned their abilities. They were told, "You can't do it." Sometimes they felt alone. Sometimes they cried, but they kept going. They were not only fighting for their own dreams, They were opening doors for future generations. These women faced many struggles. Often, they had no mentors or role models. They had to teach themselves. They had to work harder than their male peers. Sometimes, their work was stolen or ignored. They were not always given credit for their discoveries. Still, they kept going. Why did they continue? Because they believed in something bigger than themselves. They believed in science. They believed in the power of knowledge to change the world. They believed in equality. They wanted to show that women could make history too. The early 20th century brought some hope. More schools began to accept women. Slowly, more women entered the fields of science, technology, engineering, and math. But progress was slow. Women had to fight for every opportunity. They had to prove their worth again and again. One woman who knew this fight well was Rosalind Franklin. She was born in 1920 in London. From a young age, Rosalind loved solving puzzles. She became a chemist and later worked on understanding DNA, the building blocks of life. Rosalind's famous Photo 51 was the key to discovering DNA's structure. But her name was left out of the history books for many years. She worked in silence, without recognition. Her story is both inspiring and heartbreaking. Each of these women's stories is unique, but they all share something in common: courage. It takes courage to dream when the world says no. It takes courage to keep going when no one believes in you. These women had that courage. They also had determination. They worked through failures, rejections, and hardships. They kept learning. They kept experimenting. They kept fighting for their place in the world of science. And they had vision. They saw a future where women could contribute to science, technology, and innovation. They imagined a better world and worked to make it real. Today, we know their names. We study their discoveries. We celebrate their achievements. But their journey was not just about them. It was about opening doors for others. It was about showing the world that talent knows no gender. When we hear about Ada Lovelace, Marie Curie, Katherine Johnson, and Rosalind Franklin, we remember their struggles. But we also remember their triumphs. They remind us that change is possible. They show us that even when the road is difficult, the destination is worth it. The fight for equality is not over. But these women lit a spark. They proved that women belong in science. They proved that dreams can become reality. They proved that courage, determination, and vision can change the world. Their fight was not just for themselves. It was for all of us. It was for the future. Chapter 2. Marie Curie, the woman who glowed. Marie Curie was born in Warsaw, Poland, in 1867. Her family valued education, but life was hard. Poland was under Russian control, and opportunities for women were few. Marie loved to learn. She excelled in school and dreamed of studying science. But women were not allowed to attend university in Poland. Marie refused to give up. She studied on her own and secretly joined a group called the Flying University, where women could learn in secret. Her mind was sharp, and her ambition was strong. Marie wanted more. She dreamed of studying at the famous Sorbonne University in Paris. In 1891, she left Poland and moved to France. She was 24 years old. Paris was exciting, but life was difficult. Marie had little money. She lived in a small, cold room and often ate only bread and tea. Despite these challenges, Marie worked hard. She studied physics and mathematics, often staying up late into the night. She was determined to succeed. At the Sorbonne, Marie met Pierre Curie, a brilliant scientist. They shared a passion for discovery. The two fell in love and married in 1895. Together, they began working on groundbreaking research. Marie became fascinated by a discovery made by another scientist, Henri Becquerel. He found that uranium gave off rays of energy. Marie wanted to learn more. What caused these mysterious rays? She decided to investigate. Marie and Pierre worked tirelessly in a small, poorly equipped lab. They studied a mineral called pitchblende, which contained uranium. Marie discovered something extraordinary. The mineral emitted even more energy than uranium alone. This meant there was another, unknown element in the pitchblende. Marie and Pierre set out to find it. They crushed tons of the mineral, separated its parts, and analyzed it. The work was exhausting. Finally, in 1898, they discovered two new elements: polonium, named after Marie's homeland, and radium. These elements were radioactive, meaning they gave off powerful energy. It was a breakthrough in science. Marie's discoveries made her famous. In 1903, she and Pierre, along with Henri Becquerel, were awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics. Marie was the first woman to win this honor. But fame did not change Marie. She continued working, pushing the limits of science. She wanted to understand how radiation could be used to help people. Her research opened the door to new treatments for diseases like cancer. However, Marie's work came at a cost. The lab was not safe. At that time, scientists did not understand the dangers of radiation. Marie often handled radioactive materials with her bare hands. She and Pierre both suffered from fatigue and illness. In 1906, tragedy struck. Pierre was killed in a street accident. Marie was devastated. She lost her partner, her friend, and the love of her life. But Marie did not give up. She continued their work alone, raising their two daughters while pursuing her research. In 1911, she won her second Nobel Prize, this time in chemistry. She remains the only person to win Nobel Prizes in two different sciences. During World War I, Marie used her knowledge to help soldiers. She developed mobile X-ray machines, which were used to treat the wounded on the battlefield. She traveled to the front lines, teaching doctors how to use the machines. Her efforts saved countless lives. Marie became a symbol of strength and determination. She was admired around the world, yet she remained humble. She once said, "I am among those who think that science has great beauty." But years of exposure to radiation took a toll on Marie's health. She became weak and often felt sick. In 1934, Marie Curie died from a condition caused by radiation. She gave her life to science. Today, Marie Curie's legacy lives on. Her discoveries changed the world. Radium and polonium became the foundation for nuclear physics and medicine. Her work inspired generations of scientists, especially women, to follow their dreams. Marie Curie proved that with determination and courage, even the greatest challenges can be overcome. She will always be remembered as the woman who glowed, both with brilliance and with the light of discovery. Chapter 3. Rosalind Franklin, The Hidden Picture. Rosalind Franklin was born in London in 1920. She grew up in a large family. They were warm and close, but strict. Her father believed that women should not work outside the home. Rosalind, however, had different ideas. She loved learning. She loved solving problems. From a young age, she wanted to know how things worked. When Rosalind was a little girl, she spent hours reading books. She asked many questions. Her teachers noticed her talent. One teacher said, "Rosalind will do great things." But it was not easy to be a girl who loved science in the 1930s. Many people believed science was only for boys. Rosalind worked hard in school. She earned top marks in math, chemistry, and physics. She was determined to study at Cambridge University. Her father did not support this dream. He thought women should not go to university. Rosalind disagreed. She fought for her education. In 1938, she won. She entered Cambridge and began her studies in chemistry. Life at university was not simple. Rosalind was one of the few women there. The male students often ignored her. Professors did not always take her seriously, but Rosalind didn't care. She focused on her work. She wanted to succeed. After university, Rosalind worked in Paris. She learned how to use X-rays to study the structure of molecules. This was a new and difficult field. Rosalind became very skilled. Her work earned her respect, but she missed her family in London. After World War II, she returned to England. In 1951, Rosalind joined King's College London. She was hired to study DNA. At that time, no one knew much about DNA. What was it made of? What did it look like? Scientists were searching for answers. Rosalind started her work in a small basement lab. The lab was dark and cold. The equipment was old and unreliable. But Rosalind was not discouraged. She set up her experiments with care. She worked long hours, often late into the night. Her task was to use X-ray crystallography. This technique created images of molecules by shooting X-rays at them. Rosalind had to prepare each sample of DNA carefully. It was slow and detailed work. The process took days, sometimes weeks. Finally, she began to see results. Her images were clearer than any others at the time. She captured the famous Photo 51. This image showed the structure of DNA, a double helix. It was a breakthrough. The double helix was the key to understanding how DNA carried genetic information. But Rosalind's work was not easy. The environment at King's College was tense. Many of her male colleagues did not welcome her. One scientist, Maurice Wilkins, did not get along with her. He often worked against her. not with her. This made her job more difficult. Rosalind was not treated fairly. Without her permission, Wilkins showed Photo 51 to James Watson and Francis Crick. They were scientists at another university. Using her image, they built a model of DNA. Watson and Crick published their findings in 1953. Their work became world famous. Rosalind was shocked. She had not been included in the discovery. Her contributions were ignored. The scientific world gave credit to Watson, Crick, and Wilkins. Rosalind's name was left out. It was a betrayal. She had worked so hard, yet her efforts were overlooked. Despite this, Rosalind did not give up. She moved to a new lab and began studying viruses. She wanted to help people by understanding how viruses worked. Her research made important contributions to science. In 1956, Rosalind became ill. She was diagnosed with cancer. Some believed her illness was caused by her long exposure to X-rays. But Rosalind stayed strong. She continued her work, even during her treatment. She presented her findings at conferences. She supported younger scientists. She never stopped learning and teaching. Rosalind Franklin died in 1958. She was only 37 years old. Her death was a great loss to science. She had so much more to give. Years later, people began to recognize Rosalind's work. Historians wrote about her role in the discovery of DNA. Scientists praised her skill and dedication. Today, Rosalind Franklin is remembered as a pioneer. Was justice ever served? Partly. Watson, Crick, and Wilkins received the Nobel Prize in 1962 for their work on DNA. Rosalind was not included because the Nobel Prize cannot be given posthumously. Many people believe she deserved to share that honor. Rosalind's story is both inspiring and sad. She faced unfair treatment and challenges, but she never let these stop her. She showed courage, intelligence, and determination. Her life teaches us an important lesson. Sometimes the world is not fair, but hard work and truth always matter. Rosalind Franklin changed science forever. She is a role model for anyone who dreams of making a difference. Chapter 4. Ada Lovelace, the first computer genius. Ada Lovelace was born in London in 1815. Her full name was Augusta Ada Byron. She was the daughter of the famous poet Lord Byron. But Ada's life was far from poetic. Her parents' marriage ended when she was just a baby. Her father left, and Ada never saw him again. Ada's mother, Annabella, was determined to raise her daughter differently. Annabella loved math and logic. She wanted Ada to focus on facts, not emotions. Ada's childhood was strict and lonely. She spent hours studying mathematics, languages, and science. She often felt isolated. But Ada was curious. She loved solving puzzles. She dreamed of flying machines and inventing new things. Even as a child, her imagination was limitless. When Ada was a teenager, she met Charles Babbage, a brilliant mathematician and inventor. He had created a design for a machine called the difference engine. This machine could calculate numbers. It was a revolutionary idea for the 1800s. Ada was fascinated. She wanted to learn everything about the machine. Babbage noticed her intelligence. He called her the Enchantress of Numbers. The two became close friends. Later, Babbage designed another machine, the analytical engine. This machine was more advanced. It could solve problems and follow instructions. But Babbage only created plans for the machine. He never built it. Ada studied Babbage's designs carefully. She wanted to understand how the machine worked. She wrote detailed notes and made new discoveries. One of her greatest ideas was about programming. She realized the machine could do more than just math. Ada imagined that the analytical engine could follow a set of instructions or an algorithm. This idea was revolutionary. Machines of her time were only used for calculations. But Ada believed they could do much more. She wrote a long paper about the machine and its possibilities. In her notes, she included the first algorithm ever designed for a machine. This is why Ada is called the world's first computer programmer. But Ada's ideas were too advanced for her time. People did not understand her vision. The analytical engine was never built. Her work was forgotten for many years. Ada's life was also filled with personal struggles. She suffered from poor health her entire life. She was often bedridden, unable to work or study. This frustrated her deeply. She also faced financial troubles. Ada loved to gamble. She often lost large sums of money, which caused problems in her family. Her brilliant mind was sometimes overshadowed by her personal challenges. In 1852, Ada became very ill. She was only 36 years old. As she lay on her deathbed, she asked to see her husband. Their relationship had been troubled, but she wanted to make peace. She died shortly after, leaving behind her 3 children. Ada's story is bittersweet. She was a visionary, far ahead of her time. Yet, her work was not appreciated during her life. For over a century, her contributions were ignored. In the 20th century, Ada's notes were rediscovered. Scientists realized the importance of her ideas. She had predicted the future of computers long before they were invented. Today, Ada is celebrated as a pioneer of technology. Her story reminds us of the power of imagination. Ada saw what others could not. She dreamed of a world where machines could think, create, and solve problems. Ada Lovelace inspires us to dream big, even when the world does not understand. Her work laid the foundation for modern computers. Her vision changed the course of history. Chapter 5. Katherine Johnson, the Human Calculator. Katherine Johnson was born in 1918 in West Virginia, USA. From a young age, Katherine loved numbers. Numbers made sense to her. They felt simple and clear. She could solve math problems quickly, and her teachers noticed. One teacher even said, "Katherine is a genius." But life in West Virginia was not easy for Katherine. At that time, schools were segregated. Black and white children could not attend the same schools. Opportunities for black students were very limited. Katherine's family had to make sacrifices to support her education. When she was just 10 years old, Catherine started high school. Most children her age were still in elementary school. But Catherine was different. She loved learning and worked hard to succeed. Catherine dreamed of going to college. Her family saved money and encouraged her. In 1937, at the age of 18, Catherine graduated from West Virginia State College. She earned top honors in math and French. She wanted to teach, but she also dreamed of using her math skills in other ways. At that time, few jobs were available for African American women. It was a time of racial discrimination and limited opportunities. Catherine became a teacher, but she never stopped dreaming of doing something greater. In 1953, Catherine got an exciting opportunity. She was hired to work at the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, NACA, which later became NASA. She joined a team of women who worked as human computers. Human computers were people who performed complex calculations by hand. They used pencils, paper, and their minds to solve problems. Catherine's job was to calculate flight paths, orbits, and trajectories for airplanes and rockets. It was a difficult job, but Catherine loved the challenge. However, working at NACA was not always easy. The office was segregated, just like the schools Catherine had attended. There were separate bathrooms and dining areas for black employees. Catherine had to work harder than her colleagues to prove herself. But Catherine's talent stood out. She was brilliant, precise, and fast. Her supervisors noticed her skills and began giving her more important tasks. In 1961, Catherine worked on a historic project, the flight of Alan Shepard. He was the first American astronaut to travel into space. Catherine calculated the flight path that would bring Shepard safely back to Earth. Her work had to be perfect. A small mistake could mean disaster. Catherine double-checked her numbers again and again. When Shepard's flight succeeded, it was a proud moment for Catherine and her team. In 1962, NASA planned another important mission. This time, astronaut John Glenn would orbit the Earth. It was a dangerous mission, and the calculations were even more complicated. NASA had begun using computers for calculations, but John Glenn didn't trust the machines completely. He said, "Get the girl to check the numbers." The girl was Catherine. Catherine reviewed the computer's calculations by hand. She found no mistakes. Her work gave John Glenn the confidence to fly. His mission was a success, and Catherine became a hero at NASA. Catherine's career at NASA lasted more than 30 years. She worked on many important missions, including the Apollo program. Her calculations helped send astronauts to the moon and bring them home safely. Catherine loved her job. She said, "I felt like I was contributing. I liked working with smart people." Her work changed the way people thought about space exploration. Despite her success, Catherine stayed humble. She often said she was just doing her job, but her job was extraordinary. She broke barriers not just for women, but also for African Americans. Catherine's achievements opened doors for future generations. She showed the world that talent and hard work matter more than race or gender. Later in life, Catherine received many awards. In 2015, President Barack Obama awarded her the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest honor for a civilian. Catherine was 97 years old at the time. Her story was also told in the book and movie Hidden Figures. People around the world learned about her incredible contributions to science and space exploration. Katherine Johnson passed away in 2020 at the age of 101. Her life was long and full of accomplishments. She left a legacy of courage, intelligence, and determination. Catherine's story teaches us that hard work and perseverance can overcome even the biggest obstacles. She was more than a mathematician. She was a pioneer, a trailblazer, and an inspiration. Her numbers sent rockets into space. Her courage broke barriers. Her story will continue to inspire for generations to come. Before we begin. Chapter 6. A quick note for our listeners. You're currently listening to this audiobook on WooEnglish. Remember, this content is specially made for WooEnglish listeners only. If you're hearing it on any other channel, it may be a violation of WooEnglish's rights. Please ensure you're tuned into the right source to fully enjoy and respect this audiobook journey. Now, let's continue the story. Chapter 6. Lisa Meitner. The Power of the Atom. Lisa Meitner was born in Vienna, Austria in 1878. She was a quiet and curious child. She loved to learn and was especially good at math and science. But in the late 1800s, women were not allowed to study at universities in Austria. Lisa's dream of becoming a scientist seemed impossible. Still, she refused to give up. She worked hard and studied in secret. In 1901, the rules changed, and women were allowed to attend university. Lisa immediately enrolled. She studied physics and earned her doctorate in 1905. She was only the second woman in Austria to achieve this. After university, Lisa moved to Berlin, Germany to continue her research. There, she met Otto Hahn, a brilliant chemist. The two became close colleagues. Together, they worked on understanding the atom. Lisa focused on the physics, while Otto handled the chemistry. But life in Berlin was not easy for Lisa. At that time, women were not allowed to hold official positions in universities. She worked in a small, separate room without pay. Even though she was treated unfairly, Lisa didn't complain. She loved science too much to stop. Her hard work paid off. In 1918, Lisa and Otto discovered a new element, protactinium. This was a major achievement. Slowly, Lisa gained respect in the scientific community. She became one of the first women in Germany to be appointed as a professor of physics. Lisa's life changed forever in 1933. The Nazi Party came to power in Germany. As a Jewish woman, Lisa was in danger. Although she had converted to Christianity years earlier, the Nazis still saw her as Jewish. At first, Lisa tried to continue her work, but in 1938, it became too dangerous. She had to leave everything behind: her home, her job, and her research. With the help of friends, Lisa escaped to Sweden. She crossed the border in secret, carrying only a small suitcase. In Sweden, Lisa was safe, but she felt alone. She missed her family and her colleagues. She worried about the future. Would she ever be able to return to Germany? Would she ever work in science again? Despite her fears, Lise continued her research. She stayed in contact with Otto Hahn, who was still in Germany. The two wrote letters and shared ideas. In late 1938, Otto made an incredible discovery. Uranium atoms could split into smaller parts. This process released a huge amount of energy. Otto sent his results to Lisa, asking for her opinion. Lisa and her nephew, physicist Otto Frisch, thought about the problem carefully. They realized that this splitting of the atom, called nuclear fission, was a new and powerful phenomenon. It was the key to understanding atomic energy. Lisa and Otto Frisch wrote a paper explaining nuclear fission. It was a breakthrough. Scientists around the world were amazed. This discovery changed history. It led to the development of nuclear power, and later, the atomic bomb. But while Otto Hahn's work was recognized, Lisa's role was ignored. In 1944, Otto Hahn was awarded the Nobel Prize in Chemistry for his discovery of nuclear fission. Lisa's contributions were not mentioned. Lisa was heartbroken. She had worked so hard, and her ideas had been crucial to the discovery. But as a woman, and as a refugee, she was overlooked. She once said, "I was the one who understood what happened, but Otto got the prize." Even though she was hurt, Lisa did not let this stop her. She continued her work and became an advocate for peace. She spoke out against the use of nuclear weapons. She believed science should be used to help humanity, not destroy it. As the years passed, more people began to recognize Lisa's contributions. In 1946, she was invited to the United States, where she received a standing ovation from the scientific community. She was honored with several awards and became an inspiration to many young women in science. Lisa never married or had children. For her, science was her life. She once said, "I live and breathe physics." Her passion and determination made her one of the greatest physicists of her time. Lise Meitner died in 1968 at the age of 89. On her gravestone, the words read, "A physicist who never lost her humanity." This simple sentence captured her essence. Today, Lisa is remembered as a pioneer of nuclear physics. Element 109, Meitnerium, is named in her honor. Her story is one of courage, brilliance, and resilience. Lisa Meitner's journey teaches us an important lesson. Even in the face of injustice, we must continue to work for what we believe in. Her name, once almost forgotten, now shines brightly in the history of science. Chapter 7. Jane. Goodall. Listening to the Wild. Jane Goodall was born in London in 1934. As a child, she loved animals. She often read books about wildlife and dreamed of living in the jungle. Jane's favorite book was Tarzan of the Apes. She imagined herself living like Tarzan, surrounded by animals and nature. When Jane was 12, her mother gave her a notebook. Jane used it to write down her thoughts and observations about animals. She spent hours in her garden watching birds and insects. Her curiosity grew stronger every day. Jane wanted to study animals, but she faced many challenges. At that time, most scientists were men. Few women were accepted in scientific fields. Jane also had no money for university. Still, she did not give up. When Jane was 23, she heard about a job in Africa. An archaeologist named Louis Leakey needed someone to help him with his research. Jane saved money and traveled to Kenya. It was her first time leaving England. Jane impressed Louis Leakey with her passion for animals. He had a bold idea. He wanted someone to study wild chimpanzees. At that time, little was known about these animals. Leakey believed that observing chimpanzees could teach us about human evolution. Jane had no formal training, but Leakey believed in her. He sent her to Gombe National Park in Tanzania. There, she would live among the chimpanzees. Jane arrived in Gombe in 1960. She was 26 years old. She brought only a notebook, a pair of binoculars, and her mother for company. Her mother stayed for the first few months to support Jane in the wild. At first, the jungle was overwhelming. It was full of strange sounds and movements. Jane had to learn how to live in this new environment. There were no roads, no electricity, and no comforts from home. Jane's biggest challenge was the chimpanzees. They were shy and ran away whenever she came close. Jane decided to be patient. She spent hours sitting quietly, watching from a distance. Slowly, the chimpanzees began to trust her. One day, Jane saw something extraordinary. A chimpanzee, which she named David Greybeard, was using a stick to catch termites. This was a groundbreaking discovery. At that time, scientists believed only humans could use tools. Jane proved them wrong. This moment changed everything. It showed that chimpanzees were more like humans than people had thought. They were intelligent, resourceful, and capable of solving problems. Jane continued her work with the chimpanzees. She gave each one a name, like Flo, Flint, and Goliath. She observed their daily lives. She saw how they cared for their young, formed friendships, and even fought with each other. One day, Jane saw something shocking. A group of chimpanzees attacked another group. This was the first time anyone had witnessed animals planning and carrying out violence. It was a sad discovery, but it also showed the complexity of chimpanzee behavior. Jane's findings challenged many beliefs. People had thought animals were simple and driven only by instinct. Jane's work showed that animals had emotions, personalities, and social structures. Jane's research gained attention around the world. Scientists admired her dedication, and the public loved her stories about the jungle. But some people criticized her methods. They said she was not a real scientist because she had no degree. Jane wanted to prove them wrong. In 1965, she earned a PhD in ethology from Cambridge University. She became one of the few people to earn a doctorate without having a bachelor's degree first. Life in the jungle was not always easy. Jane faced many challenges, including illness, loneliness, and danger from wild animals. But she remained committed to her work. She loved the chimpanzees and wanted to protect them. Over time, Jane saw the threats facing the chimpanzees. Logging and farming were destroying their habitats. Poachers hunted them for money. Jane knew she had to act. She began traveling the world, speaking about the importance of conservation. She encouraged people to protect wildlife and the environment. She inspired millions with her message of hope and action. In 1977, Jane founded the Jane Goodall Institute. This organization works to protect chimpanzees and their habitats. It also supports communities living near the forests, helping them find sustainable ways to live. Jane also started a program called Roots and Shoots. It encourages young people to take action for animals, the environment, and human communities. She believes that young people are the key to a better future. Today, Jane Goodall is one of the most famous scientists in the world. She has received many awards for her work, including the United Nations Messenger of Peace title. But she remains humble. She often says, "I'm just a girl who loved animals." Jane still travels and speaks about conservation, even in her late 80s. She continues to inspire people with her dedication and kindness. Jane Goodall's story teaches us that one person can make a difference. She showed the world that animals deserve respect and protection. She proved that following your passion can lead to incredible discoveries. Through patience, courage, and determination, Jane listened to the wild and changed how we see it forever. Chapter 8. Barbara McClintock, Secrets in the Corn. Barbara McClintock was born in 1902 in Hartford, Connecticut. She was a quiet child who loved learning. Barbara enjoyed spending time alone, reading books and exploring nature. She had a curious mind and a deep love for plants. At school, Barbara excelled in science. She was fascinated by how things worked. She especially loved biology. But in the early 1900s, science was not seen as a career for women. People thought women could not handle difficult subjects like genetics. Barbara ignored these ideas. She was determined to follow her passion. In 1919, Barbara entered Cornell University. She studied botany, the science of plants. At Cornell, she discovered her true interest: genetics. She wanted to understand how traits, like color or size, were passed from one generation to the next. Barbara was especially drawn to corn plants. She saw them as more than just food. To her, they were a mystery waiting to be solved. She studied their kernels, leaves, and roots. Every detail fascinated her. By the 1930s, Barbara was one of the leading scientists in her field. She worked at a time when genetics was still a new science. Many questions were unanswered. How did genes work? Could they move or change? Barbara believed the answers could be found in corn. She spent hours in the fields, examining plants. She worked alone, carefully studying every detail. Then she would take her samples to the lab and analyze them under a microscope. Her work was slow and detailed. She kept meticulous notes and drew careful conclusions. It was not glamorous, but Barbara didn't care. She was searching for the truth. One day, Barbara made an incredible discovery. She found that genes could move from one place to another on a chromosome. She called them jumping genes. This movement could turn a gene on or off, changing how a plant grew. This idea was revolutionary. At the time, scientists believed genes were fixed. They thought genes stayed in one place and never moved. Barbara's discovery challenged this belief. When Barbara shared her findings, many scientists did not believe her. They laughed at her ideas and dismissed her work. Some even called her crazy. It was a painful time for Barbara. She felt isolated and ignored. But Barbara did not give up. She believed in her research. She continued working in silence, confident that the truth would one day be recognized. Barbara's dedication paid off. Over the years, more scientists began to study her work. They found that her discoveries were correct. Jumping genes were real. Her research opened new doors in genetics. Barbara's findings had a major impact on science. They helped scientists understand how traits are passed down and how genes can change. Her work also contributed to advances in medicine, agriculture, and biotechnology. In 1983, decades after her discovery, Barbara received the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine. She was the first woman to win this award alone. It was a moment of triumph. After years of doubt, the world finally recognized her genius. When Barbara accepted the award, she spoke with humility. She said she had never sought fame. For her, the work itself was the reward. She was simply happy to have found answers to her questions. Barbara's life teaches us an important lesson. Believe in yourself, even when others doubt you. She faced rejection and criticism, but never stopped working. Her patience and determination changed the world of science. Today, Barbara McClintock is remembered as one of the greatest geneticists in history. Her discovery of jumping genes revolutionized our understanding of biology. She found secrets in the corn and unlocked mysteries of life itself. Chapter 9. Dorothy Vaughan, Code Breaker of the Stars. Dorothy Vaughan was born in 1910 in Kansas City, Missouri. She was a bright and curious child. Her parents valued education and worked hard to support her studies. Dorothy excelled in school, especially in math. She dreamed of a future where she could use her talents. But life in the early 1900s was not easy for African Americans. Segregation laws divided schools, neighborhoods, and opportunities. Despite these barriers, Dorothy stayed determined. She knew that education was her path to success. In 1925, Dorothy graduated from high school at the top of her class. She earned a scholarship to Wilberforce University, a historically black college in Ohio. There, she studied mathematics. After graduating, she became a teacher, sharing her love of math with young students. Dorothy enjoyed teaching, but she wanted to do more. She dreamed of working in science or engineering. However, opportunities for African American women in these fields were rare. For many years, Dorothy focused on her family and her job as a teacher. In 1943, during World War II, everything changed. The United States needed more workers to support the war effort. NASA's predecessor, the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, NACA, began hiring women to work as human computers. These women performed complex calculations for engineers and scientists. Dorothy saw an opportunity and applied. She was hired and moved to Virginia to work at the Langley Memorial Aeronautical Laboratory. Dorothy joined a segregated group of African American women called the West Area Computing Unit. Life at Langley was challenging. The office was segregated, like much of Virginia at the time. African American women had separate bathrooms, dining areas, and workspaces. They were often overlooked and underestimated. But Dorothy did not let these challenges stop her. She focused on her work and quickly proved her abilities. She was precise, efficient, and innovative. Her calculations helped design safer airplanes during the war. After the war, Dorothy stayed at Langley. In 1949, she became the first African American woman to be promoted to a management position. She led the West Area Computing Unit, mentoring and guiding other women. Dorothy's leadership inspired her team to excel, even in difficult conditions. In the 1950s, NACA began to change. Machines called electronic computers were introduced. These machines could calculate faster than humans. Many human computers worried about losing their jobs. Dorothy saw this as an opportunity, not a threat. She decided to learn how to program the machines. She taught herself the programming language Fortran, one of the first computer languages. Dorothy also taught others, ensuring her team remained valuable in the changing workplace. In 1958, NACA became NASA. The focus shifted from airplanes to space exploration. Dorothy and her team worked on calculations that helped send astronauts into space. Their work was critical to the success of early space missions. Dorothy played an important role in Project Mercury, which sent the first American astronauts into orbit. Her programming skills helped ensure the safety and accuracy of the missions. Yet, her contributions were often hidden behind the scenes. Dorothy's story, like those of many women at NASA, remained untold for years. It wasn't until the book and movie Hidden Figures that people learned about her incredible achievements. Her work paved the way for future generations of women and people of color in science and technology. She proved that determination and knowledge could break down barriers. Dorothy retired from NASA in 1971. She continued to mentor and inspire young people, encouraging them to pursue careers in math and science. She often said, "If you have a skill, use it to help others." Dorothy Vaughan passed away in 2008 at the age of 98. Her legacy lives on in the countless lives she touched. Today, Dorothy is remembered as a pioneer of computer programming and a leader in space exploration. She taught us the importance of adapting to change and supporting others. Chapter 10. Rachel Carson, A Voice for the Earth. Rachel Carson was born in 1907 in a small town in Pennsylvania, USA. She grew up on a farm, surrounded by nature. Rachel loved exploring the fields and streams near her home. She collected insects, watched birds, and dreamed of becoming a writer. Rachel was curious about the world. She loved books and spent hours reading about science and animals. Her mother encouraged her curiosity. She taught Rachel to respect the earth and all living things. When Rachel finished high school, she went to college. At first, she planned to study English. She wanted to be a writer. But in her second year, she took a biology class that changed her life. Rachel discovered her passion for science. She decided to combine her two loves, writing and nature. Rachel wanted to share the beauty of the natural world with others. She believed that if people understood nature, they would protect it. After college, Rachel became a marine biologist. She studied the oceans and wrote articles about her discoveries. Her writing was simple and clear. It made science exciting and easy to understand. People loved reading her work. In 1941, Rachel published her first book, Under the Sea Wind. It described life in the ocean, from tiny fish to large whales. The book was praised for its beautiful descriptions. Rachel continued writing while working for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Her next book, The Sea Around Us, became a bestseller. It won awards and made Rachel famous, but Rachel's most important work was yet to come. In the 1950s, she began noticing something troubling. Farmers and businesses were using large amounts of chemicals to kill pests. These chemicals, called pesticides, were sprayed on crops, forests, and even neighborhoods. At first, people believed the chemicals were safe. They killed insects, but they also poisoned birds, fish, and other animals. Rachel saw that these pesticides were harming the environment. She began to worry about the future. Rachel decided to investigate. She spent years researching pesticides like DDT. She read scientific studies, talked to experts, and collected evidence. What she discovered shocked her. These chemicals were not only killing wildlife, but also harming humans. Rachel knew she had to share this information with the world. She began writing a book that would change everything. In 1962, Rachel published Silent Spring. The title came from her fear that one day spring would come, but no birds would sing. The book described how pesticides were destroying ecosystems. It warned about the dangers of pollution and the need to protect the earth. The book was powerful and emotional. Rachel's writing painted a clear picture of the damage being done. She wrote about rivers poisoned with chemicals, birds dying, and fields empty of life. Silent Spring caused an immediate reaction. Many people were alarmed by Rachel's warnings. They began to question the use of pesticides, but others were angry. Chemical companies felt threatened by the book. They said Rachel was lying. They tried to discredit her, calling her unscientific and hysterical. Some even questioned her ability as a woman to write about science. Rachel faced attacks from powerful industries, but she stayed calm and confident. She defended her work with facts and evidence. Despite the criticism, Rachel's message spread. Her book inspired people to take action. President John F. Kennedy ordered a review of pesticides. Scientists confirmed Rachel's findings. Laws were passed to limit the use of dangerous chemicals like DDT. Rachel's work also helped spark the modern environmental movement. People began to see the importance of protecting the planet. New organizations were formed to fight for clean air, water, and land. Rachel's health was failing during this time. She had been diagnosed with cancer while writing Silent Spring. Despite her illness, she continued to speak out. She appeared on television and at conferences, sharing her message of hope and urgency. In 1964, Rachel Carson passed away at the age of 56. She did not live to see the full impact of her work, but her legacy grew stronger with time. Today, Rachel Carson is remembered as a pioneer of environmental science. Her courage and determination inspired millions. She showed the world that one voice can make a difference. Chapter 11. 2UU. Ancient Medicine, Modern Cure. 2UU was born in 1930 in Ningbo, China. She grew up in a traditional family where education was highly valued. As a child, Tu loved learning. She was especially curious about plants and their uses in medicine. When Tu was 16, she fell ill with tuberculosis. At the time, treatments were limited. She had to rest for 2 years to recover. This experience made her determined to study medicine. She wanted to help others who were suffering. 2UU attended Beijing Medical University, where she studied traditional Chinese medicine. She learned about the power of herbs, roots, and ancient remedies. But she also studied modern science. She believed that the old and new could work together. After graduating, Tu began her career as a researcher. She spent her days in the lab, studying the healing properties of plants. She was quiet and focused, always eager to learn more. In the 1960s, malaria was a deadly disease affecting millions of people. It spread through mosquito bites and caused fever, chills, and often death. In some countries, entire communities were devastated. Scientists around the world were searching for a cure, but no solution seemed to work. China launched a secret project to fight malaria. Tu was chosen to lead a team of researchers. She knew the task would not be easy. The stakes were high, and lives depended on their success. Tu and her team began by studying ancient Chinese texts. These books, some over 2,000 years old, described natural remedies for fever. Tu carefully reviewed each recipe, looking for clues. She believed that history held the answers. One remedy caught her attention. It mentioned sweet wormwood, a plant used to treat fevers in ancient times. Could this be the key? Tu decided to investigate. Her team collected samples of sweet wormwood and began testing. At first, the results were disappointing. The plant extract didn't work. Many researchers might have given up, but Tu didn't stop. She searched the ancient texts again, reading every word carefully. Then she found something important. One text said, "The plant should be prepared with cold water, not heat." Tu realized this could be the missing step. She instructed her team to adjust their method. When they tried the new process, the results were amazing. The extract killed the malaria parasite quickly and effectively. It was a breakthrough. But Tu's work was far from over. She needed to make sure the treatment was safe. She tested the medicine on animals first. Then, in a brave move, Tu tested it on herself. She wanted to be sure it wouldn't harm others. The medicine worked perfectly. Tu and her team had discovered a powerful cure for malaria. The active ingredient was named artemisinin. This discovery would go on to save millions of lives. Tu didn't seek fame for her work. She didn't even put her name on the first research papers. For her, the results mattered more than recognition. She quietly continued her research, improving the medicine and helping others. Years later, the world began to recognize Tu's contribution. In 2015, she was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine. She became the first Chinese woman to win a Nobel Prize in science. When accepting the award, Tu remained humble. She thanked her team and the ancient knowledge that guided her. She said, "This is a gift to the world from traditional Chinese medicine." Tu's discovery changed global health. Artemisinin became the main treatment for malaria, saving countless lives across Africa, Asia, and beyond. Her work showed the importance of combining tradition with modern science. Today, Tu Youyou is celebrated as a hero. She proved that determination, patience, and creativity can solve even the hardest problems. Her story reminds us that knowledge from the past can still shape the future. Tu Youyou searched ancient texts for answers. What she found changed the world. Chapter 12. Inspiring the Future. Their legacy lives on. Throughout history, the women in this book have faced obstacles. They lived in times when women were told, "No, you cannot." Yet, they proved that with courage and determination, anything is possible. They didn't just dream, they acted. Their work has changed the world forever. Marie Curie left her home and worked tirelessly in a foreign country. She made discoveries that saved lives and opened the door to modern medicine. Her story reminds us of the power of perseverance. Rosalind Franklin's work was hidden for many years. Her photo of DNA, photo 51, unlocked the mystery of life. She taught us that truth and dedication matter, even if recognition takes time. Ada Lovelace imagined machines that could think. She saw the future of computers long before anyone else. Her vision and imagination inspire us to believe in new ideas. Katherine Johnson broke barriers with her brilliant mind. Her calculations sent astronauts into space. She overcame racism and sexism, proving that intelligence knows no boundaries. Lisa Meitner uncovered the secrets of nuclear fission. She fled danger during World War II and worked in exile. Her resilience and commitment to science changed history. Jane Goodall entered the jungle to learn about chimpanzees. She showed us the beauty of animals and the need to protect them. Her life's work reminds us to care for the planet and all its creatures. Barbara McClintock worked quietly, studying corn plants. Her discovery of jumping genes was ignored at first, but it changed the field of genetics. She showed us the value of patience and belief in one's work. Dorothy Vaughan taught herself to code and became a leader at NASA. She guided her team through the dawn of the computer age. Her story reminds us of the importance of adapting and helping others succeed. Rachel Carson's words warned the world about the dangers of pesticides. She faced fierce criticism, but sparked the environmental movement. She taught us to protect the earth and speak out for what is right. Tu Youyou searched ancient texts to find a cure for malaria. Her discovery saved millions of lives. She showed us how combining old knowledge with new science can create miracles. Each of these women faced doubt and criticism. Many worked in silence. Some were forgotten for years. But they didn't stop. They believed in their ideas, even when others did not. They made sacrifices, worked late into the night, and never gave up. Their stories are filled with drama, heartbreak, and triumph. They remind us that progress often comes at a cost. But they also show us the rewards of hard work and dedication. Their courage inspires us. It tells us to keep going when the road is difficult. It reminds us that every challenge is an opportunity to grow. These women broke rules, questioned norms, and made the impossible possible. Today, their legacies live on. Marie Curie's work continues to save lives through cancer treatments. Rosalind Franklin's contributions are celebrated in classrooms and labs worldwide. Ada Lovelace is remembered as the mother of computer programming. Katherine Johnson's calculations are still studied by scientists and engineers. Lisa Meitner's name is honored with the element meitnerium. Jane Goodall's efforts protect wildlife and inspire conservationists. Barbara McClintock's discoveries shape modern genetics. Dorothy Vaughan's leadership paved the way for women in technology. Rachel Carson's voice still echoes in the fight for environmental justice. Tu Youyou's cure for malaria continues to save lives every day. These women didn't just shape history, they shaped the future. Their courage and determination have opened doors for new generations of scientists, mathematicians, and innovators. Their stories teach us to dream big, work hard, and never give up. They show us that no matter who we are or where we come from, we can make a difference. What can we learn from them? Perhaps the most important lesson is this: believe in yourself. The world may not always support your dreams, but that doesn't mean you should stop. Each of these women faced moments of doubt and fear, but they didn't let those moments define them. They pressed forward, guided by their passion and purpose. Today, we are the next chapter in their story. We carry their lessons with us as we face our own challenges. Like them, we can dream of a better world. Like them, we can take steps to create it. The future is unwritten, waiting for new pioneers. Will you be one of them?